Alright, this is a quick training video on how to create a new project in the PM app, which is a project management module by Archewild. Alright, let's get started. So the first thing we'll do is we will take a look at a project that is already set up to get a feel for its structure. Let's look at the Mill Creek project. So under Project Master, main menu, Project Master, you can find almost any project. You can type in the customer or the name of the project itself. So Mill Creek doesn't appear here because these are customer listings, but Mill Creek is, so here's Mill Creek Preserve. Alright, so we'll just go over everything. So there's a concept of a customer. So what you see here and at the top of the screen, that is like the customer. Usually a government agency, or if it's a private individual, then it'd be a person's name. Most of our customers are agencies of some kind. So like Warrington Township is ultimately the customer. The definition of a customer basically is who pays. So it's not the people that you work with necessarily, it's the paying entity. That's who the actual contracting customer is. So for like PHS, Melissa isn't the customer per se, it's PHS is the customer. Melissa is representing PHS's interests for any contract we do with them. Okay. So that's what a customer is, and then because you can't talk to a company or a government, you have to have contacts. So for every customer, there has to be at least one real person contact that you can email or phone call or chat with. Alright, so customers have contacts. Customers also have projects. So a project is usually something big. It's like a major undertaking of some kind. The 1 acre botanical garden, or this entire GSI land care program, or DIWA. It's like one big project. It's not a bunch of little projects. It's one big, huge project. Customers can have multiple projects. Some customers like DCNR might have 100 individual projects. So let's jump inside a project to see how that's structured. So that's the project. I'm going to expand it with that little icon. So projects have a number of very important things to set up so that it functions well. Projects need addresses. If there's not an address, you just get close. That's for drive-to links and other maps that we run. You choose an order status. So like in the case of PHS, at this point we've only proposed it. We don't have an active contract. Once you have a contract, and then you can say it's confirmed, meaning a contract that's signed by all parties. When the project is completely done, you mark it as complete. And if you set up a project but the client said, oops, I changed my mind, then you click lost. Alright, and the project manager is, well, we use the term project manager in a lot of different ways. In this context, it means who is responsible for managing the contract deliverables. So basically who's responsible for that contract. So for Mill Creek, I am the current project manager for that. So I hold the responsibility for satisfying all of the contractual requirements. Similarly, for a project, there should be a designated herbicide manager. And that refers to the person that is guiding or directing the herbicide treatment plan. That's especially important for states like Pennsylvania that allow non-licensed people to apply herbicides. If you remember when you were reviewing the rules for that, there needs to be an herbicide manager that carries the responsibility and the accountability for the things that are done in the field. So that's why it's its own field. So for Mill Creek, I am both of those. Confirmed. So we should link them, but we haven't. So when an order is confirmed, you change that thing, but you also have to flip the switch. Just kind of legacy. Have to do them both. When you create a project, it is automatically in the open stage. You can hide it from view forever by just closing the project altogether. But we almost never flip that switch, but it's there if it's needed. Some notes. So that's the the project setup screen. Not much to it really. An address, a calendar nickname, that's really important. Because if you have a super long name for the project, then it clutters the task calendar. So just a one word, all caps, makes interpreting the task calendar much easier. Any questions? So in setting up a project, these are your all-important numbers. These you don't edit directly. These are calculations based on other things that you will do. When everything is set up perfectly, those two numbers match and they're both green and bold. So green, bold numbers that are the same means success. Doesn't mean accuracy, it just means success. So you can't change those manually. They are the result of, let me show you. So total bid price on the sales order. What does that mean? Where does that number come from? So, most of our clients do not issue purchase orders. So there needs to be a contract. So we initiate the contract by sending a sales order, bid price sales order. So we create those documents, here in the PM app through this feature called the sales order line item document. All right. And in that, say for Mill Creek, I'll expand this. This is a set of, these are not tasks. These are more concepts, if you will. Maybe big tasks or phases. There's lots of different ways to think about it. And each sales order seems to have a slightly different structure anyway. So we haven't really defined that. It's more or less based on what makes sense. So for Mill Creek Preserve, it's like a 30-acre meadow. I forget how big it is. The township did not provide a purchase order, so we had to craft a sales order. So so that project was decomposed into these 16 bits. The one meaningful consideration for how to invent the sales order line items is to spread out the work over time and the invoicing events over time. It is the words on the sales order that govern invoicing. So customers care just a tremendous amount about what appears in the schedule because it is the contract. So, for example, for Mill Creek, it's a 3-year project. We could have just had one line item on the sales order, which was build meadow, with a price of whatever it was, $146,000. If that's all that was on the sales order, then you would have to do everything, and then only when you were at the very end could you send them an invoice for that $146. If we spend, have to buy seed and rentals and whatever we do and send people there, to not get any revenue back. So the smart sales order, if it can be arranged, is you break the project down into discrete packets, chunks, phases. And in doing so, you spread out the value of that contract over time. Customers like this very much too, because a small township, maybe like this one, they might not have $146,000 in their checking account. They'd write a big check all at once. They would much prefer to just write a whole bunch of little checks as you go. But there is no guideline necessarily on how many line items there should be. There are some exceptions, I'll show you. So under DCNR being a state, they do issue purchase orders. Yeah, when you look in the projects for DCNR, you'll see these really odd names. There are rules related to processing purchase orders from the state. The name of the project must be the name that they provided exactly on the purchase order. So if we look here at 38 Bortnick, whatever, that's the name, that's what the state of Pennsylvania calls the project. Mm-hmm. We can't rename it. That is therefore the name of the project. And if you look at the sales order line items here, there's just 4. These are an exact, so there are four items on the sales order and 4 values. And there is some bullet point language and the bid item description. So yeah, these sales order line items, the values, and the text in the bid item description, these were all lifted directly from the purchase order they sent to us. And their invoicing system requires that there is an exact match. Because when we send an invoice, they just scan it. Nobody looks at it. It scans it and it matches the name of the project, the purchase order number, the name of the line item, the description, everything. And it checks the value. The value has to exactly match their values. If everything matches, they just automatically send you a check. So there are cases where we have no creative license for how to craft a sales order. Like in the case of Pennsylvania, they tell us exactly how to structure it. Okay? For Mill Creek, there was no such requirement, so we crafted the sales order ourselves. Mill Creek Preserve, sales order line items. So to see what the sales order looks like from the customer's perspective, you can just click the Send Sales Order button in the app, and it will go to Jesse and to the project manager, which is me in this case. It does not go to the client, however. It'll show up in email pretty quickly. Alright, so if it's an Archewild project, it shows this logo. If it's a Wildlawn project, it shows the Wildlawn logo. Same with the nursery. It has the sales order number that's automatically generated. If there's a purchase order number, it'll show there. This one doesn't have a purchase order. Bill to information, so that's your contact. See that? And this is the project address. But here's what the sales order looks like. So it has that simple name and a bullet point list of what's included with that sales order line item. And when that sales order line item is completed, then that's what that bundle of activities is worth. And I believe also there's a prospective payment schedule down below. And townships and government agencies, they just love this. They want to know what the project plan is, so they interpret this as a project plan, and it largely is. And a date when that thing will be done and what it's worth. So they can use this panel right here for crafting their own project plans. They can send this table to their accounting department to give them a heads up that approximately on those dates they will need to have these amounts in their bank account. Most of these values are small, but that's a big one, $41,000. So township accounting departments want to know that ahead of time, so that they can do whatever they need to do to make sure that those funds are available. So that's what a sales order looks like, and we send these to clients. It becomes part of their permanent record, and it is the contract. But that is all being generated directly from the PM app and whatever gets typed in here. And that's the first thing to do with when setting up a new project, is to define how you want to break that project down, and you assign values to each of those line items. objective of this demo, or this video, is to convert this contract between Archewild and the Pennsylvania Horticultural Society, or PHS, into the PM app. So this is a case where the client is sending a contract. So what we'll be doing is replicating the structure of their purchase order, their contract agreement, into the PM app. And here we go. So this is what it looks like. Not yet signed, so it's still a draft, but this will be functioning as the purchase order from the client. Now, the client has defined various phases or deliverables, if you will, for the project, that represented by each of these bullet points. These are bullet points we provided, we suggested, which they agreed with. So for the sales order that we have to set up in the PM app, one good way to start maybe is to just take each of these bullet points and convert them into sales order line items, if they make sense. They might or might not, but that's one good place to start. And we have a value for the contract. It's small, at $25,000. So that $25,000 ideally gets distributed across each one of these bullet point items if they are converted as sales order line items. All right, so once you have, so that is the first, or the second task after you set up the project and the contacts. You create the project and define these sales order line items. You don't do really anything until all of that is set up and you look at it. Yeah, it makes logical sense, and whatever the contract amount is for is, distributed across all the items. Once you have that, though, you need to do some more things. So that's a sales order. There's a concept called deliverables, which is a confusing concept. It's a legacy thing, but what it does is it arbitrary bundling of tasks. It's just an internal organizational construct that the client doesn't see, and we don't really schedule to deliverables. So I will pass on describing these in detail, because they're a bit artificial and arbitrary, but they're a necessary part of setting up a project. There's an easy way to deal with deliverables if you're new to setting up a project. That alleviates the need to go into the deliverable concept too much. Yeah, the big task for setting up a new project is to identify all of the tasks. All right, so the task is what we put on the calendar and assign a field lead and assign crew and equipment and everything to. So most of the magic in setting up a project is defining the tasks. You can have as many tasks as you can imagine. But each of those tasks has to be linked both to a deliverable and to something on the sales order line item. And the value of that task, or the value of all the tasks associated with a particular sales order line item, have to be equivalent. So for example, if we look at burn down, which is a contract line item, you can see it has only one task assigned to it. But there can be tasks or things on the sales order line item where there are multiple tasks. But it's quite possible for any sales order line item to have multiple tasks assigned to it. There's no limit to that. So if you look down here in the task list, these are all individual tasks. So a task generally means not a day, but a trip. So if there's an activity like invasive management over 100 acres, that can't be done in one trip. So think of a task as what can be accomplished in a particular week. If there is a task that spans 2 or 3 weeks, then you break that task up into 2 or 3 tasks. It's just cleaner and easier for scheduling, and smooths out payments for the client as well. So if you click in on a task on the Mill Creek Preserve, say seed blending and packaging by zone, you can see that that task is linked to the sales order line item, graminoid packaging, hence the sales order link. So every task has to be connected to one of the sales order line items. And each task also has to be assigned to a deliverable, which is that arbitrary bundling of tasks into buckets, if you will. So the structure is sales order line item, and then deliverables are underneath the sales order line item, and deliverables hold tasks. Deliverables are linked to the sales order line item, as are the tasks. So just to complete the overview, there are other things that get tracked on a project. So people's time logs get attached to the project and to the tasks that they were working on. We're not going to review that here. And then invoices that are created. So invoices are collections of tasks that have been marked complete by the project manager or the field lead. So as you complete tasks, let's go back to our task list. So you can see that some tasks are completed. That's the green check mark. Some tasks are not. When a task is marked as complete, then that allows finance to attach those tasks to invoices. So for invoice 1 had these tasks, and invoice 2 would have a different set of tasks. So this is how we keep track of which tasks are complete, which ones have been invoiced, which ones have been paid. Normally the clients have to figure all that out, and it's very frustrating for them, particularly for large and complex projects. So we do all of that organizational work for them, which they enjoy very much. When you apply herbicides, that also gets attached to the project. And then lastly, there are plant orders attached to projects. You can attach them to the project. Ideally, they are attached to deliverables as well. So that's a sort of a complete overview of a project and its general structure. But the most important thing is getting the sales order correct, breaking down the project into its components with values that all sum up to the total at the end, and then creating the individual tasks that are going to be required to deliver everything that's on the sales order. Let me show you the sort of the quick and easy workflow that we've set up for rapidly building out a project. You want to see that? Mm-hmm. All right, so let's see. Is there a PHS project at all? Well, we have to check. Always check to see that a customer record isn't already set up. So what I'm doing now is I'm checking inside SeedSource to confirm that the Pennsylvania Horticultural Society is a first-time customer. If you don't have access to the to SeedSource, you can always ask Victoria if that customer already exists. You can ask that question in Teams. All right, so we have confirmed that there is no Pennsylvania Horticultural Society customers already in our systems, so we're going to create that. We'll spell it out. I like all caps, but other people don't. So their official name is the Pennsylvania Horticultural Society. All right, do they provide an address? So a good way to get customer addresses and phone numbers is, and generic email addresses, is to look on their websites. So there's a recommended telephone number that we'll use for here. Customer email, maybe we'll just use Melissa for this. Not all organizations have catch-all emails. We'll just, if you double-click somebody's name in Outlook, then it gives you the email right here, which you can just copy. and paste in there. That'll work for now. If it needs to change, Victoria will change it. Mm-hmm. The customer is active. And the business line for this. This is a wild lawn because it's urban, suburban. Okay. So we have successfully set up a brand new customer. Congratulations. All right, let's add some contacts. So we'll click in on the customer, and you can add contacts fresh by just clicking the add button. But for many contacts, most of the information is the same as the customer. So there's this quick little button you can copy customer into contacts. I'm going to use that. So the contact name is, what was that? Melissa Stutzbach. Copy. Paste. If you do copy and paste, try to get rid of any stray spaces. It'll make searching easier later. Segment, we're not using right now, but yeah, there's your contact billing, delivery, phone, email. You set up the record, and then the state. So we'll use Pennsylvania. That state is very important for tax purposes, so that must be completed. Do we have any other contacts? Take a look. And you can check emails from your primary contact to see who else might want to be included. So Robert Dukes. All right, there we go. So let's click in, and you see, so this information he set up. That's one nice thing about Microsoft. So he refers to himself as Robert Dukes. Robert Dukes, and his email address, just copy here, paste over here. Also in Pennsylvania. Alright, great job. So now we have a new customer, that's PHS. And actually, what do you say we put PHS in the name of the customer so it's easier to find? Yeah. There we go. And 3 contacts. Great. Let's add a project. Alright, project name. Do we have an official name for this project? You can look at the contract for that. Okay, so green stormwater infrastructure, project. Link to the estimating spreadsheet. Okay, so what does that mean? That means, alright, so to find the link to the estimating spreadsheet, you navigate to customer projects, PHS, there's PHS. There is no estimating spreadsheet for this project. So if there were, it would look like, here we go. Usually it has the word estimate in it. Like here's a proposal. So what you would do to attach it to the project, because it is part of the record keeping, is just right click share, copy the link, and then go back into the PM app and paste it in right there. So that becomes a quick link, so that if you're working on the project and somebody has a question, well, how did you estimate that? What's included? You can just click on that link. Mm-hmm. All right, so a few more things to set up for the project. So is there a defined delivery date? And is there a date for end of term? July 1st, 2027. And what is the value of this project? It's the keyed in price. 25,000. Okay. Now there wasn't an estimating spreadsheet to tell you what the contribution margin is. Contribution margin is the price less material expenditures and rentals, money that we pay somebody else. So contribution margin is money that we keep to pay ourselves, employees and taxes, insurance, and all that stuff. In this case, we're not buying materials or renting equipment or anything. This is all professional services, right? Yeah, so if we don't have to build anything, and this is a consulting project, it's normally pure professional services. The reason why companies like professional services is because that full value is treated as contribution margin to pay salaries. Need a project GPS coordinate, and it is required. See that little asterisk?
Mm-hmm.
Here, what I'm going to do is there's multiple projects here, so but just for compliance, I will grab the GPS coordinate from a random site there. That's just to drive project maps. Alright, so that's all we need to do really to set up a brand new project. The value, the contribution margin, the business line, a GPS coordinate, and a good name. Good? Alright, save. Alright, it is red because it's not confirmed. And it's in the proposal stage. See that?
Mm-hmm.
And that's accurate, right? We don't have an active contract, so leave them in this, that in the proposed stage and this turned off until we get that signed contract, which we might have later this week. It's also asking for project address. There we go. And calendar nickname. What do you want to call it? One word, all caps. Just like it recommends right there. PHS GIS.
Or GSI.
Or GSI. No, that's perfect. So if you see that on the calendar, you'll know what that means, right?
Yeah.
All right, perfect. Customer PO, we don't have a number, but it looks like, bring this over, looks like we will get a number. See that?
Yeah.
So when we get that number, you want to put that in there against the customer PO. Not confirmed, it is open. Again, more opportunity for notes. This is not a plants order. So that just means it's a project order, not a nursery order.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the value, but there are no tasks yet, so that still shows 0. All right, so now we have officially completed the setting up of the project. All right, so let's now take a look at creating some sales order line items. Remember, that's the beginning of the process. So we're going to use this draft contract to try that. All right, so here, good find. Didn't see this. The client is expecting proposing their own payment schedule, and these could easily be used as the sales order line items then, right?
Mm-hmm.
I like that idea. That reduces complexity, and it's a small project, so all the values are sort of nominal. So let's try this then. So let's set up the first sales order line item to match that. So let's create a sales order line item. You need a nickname and a description. Since they didn't provide a description, we're going to have to write our own stakeholder interviews. Great. Nickname. Unit toggle almost always leave off, by the way. This is used, you would turn this on only in the case where we are selling something by the unit.
Oh, okay.
So if we have a contract where we are selling individual bags of mulch for $10 on a line item, then you would flip that switch and you would get you'd have to key in a unit price, like $10 a bag for mulch and 137 bags. But mostly what we do is professional services, so we don't use that. It's all fixed price. So they've proposed a fixed price for the bid item for stakeholder interviews. What was that value? That's where that's coming from, right there. Viewers, 2,000. All right, so 2,000. All right, so here's where we describe what's included. We can't leave it in this form, so we have to change it because the client will see these details. So what would be some good details to put in here? This is where you describe what's actually included in stakeholder interviews. Identify internal and external stakeholders. So some tips there. A question, why did I use the word insights? So I chose this word insights so that reduces the amount of work required by the project team, because I could have used the word transcripts, which would be extremely annoying. And I don't even want to do interview summaries, because then you would have to write a summary for each interview.
Okay.
So, and we don't really care about the details. All we really care about are the insights
Right.
from the interviews, which could be a simple bullet point list. Setting ourselves up for success and focusing the client on what matters, which is the results and not the details along the way. This number just automatically increments. The concept is that you key the sales order line items into the PM app in order, and it will order them for you. It's marked as approved, but the project isn't approved, so just leave it like this. The reason why there's an approved switch is sometimes when you do a large project and send the sales order, they will approve everything except for maybe 1 or 2 line items. So if they approve an entire sales order, but they're like, I think I'll buy the mulch on my own, then you would go into this particular sales order line item and turn it off. All right. But in general, we usually only write sales orders for things that we know that customers are buying, so it's default to yes, you just leave it as yes. Some tasks, we don't have any tasks yet. Everything is 0 for now. But that's our first sales order line item, which is awesome. Want to do the remaining 3? And is there one more?
Last one.
Mm-hmm.
And that's for final evaluation report.
Final evaluation report. Okay.
And it says C
All right, final CAD. What's it worth?
5,000.
You can see here, for those watching, that the software keeps track of how much is remaining on the sales order at any time. So since this is our last one, that remaining becomes helpful. Handy tip to make the formatting of your sales orders look really nice. Try to subscribe to this guideline. So bullet point description, no more than 5 words per line. All right. Facilitate. We can't do the review for them, but we can facilitate client review, right? Which means drag them on a phone call. All right, number 4, no tasks. Good. So now the keyed in price has turned green because the total value of each of the bid item prices together equals the value of the contract that you keyed in, or we keyed in originally. Remember when we set up the project, we said it was worth $25,000? The fact that it's now green and bold means that the sum of all the bid item prices exactly equals $25,000. So it's a nice little check. If that's not green, that means there's a discrepancy someplace. All right. So this is a nice set of sales order line items. Let me show you the quick and dirty way to set up deliverables and tasks, which is perfect for this kind of a project. Sort of perfect. So we're going to start with a sales order line item, the stakeholder interviews. And there are some handy buttons. You want to click them in a particular order. So in this case, we want to copy this sales order line item to the deliverable. So this creates a deliverable with the same exact details on the sales order line item, and that's handy. But you do need to do a few things, such as choose an estimated completion date for stakeholder interviews. We do need to update that. The date will default to the end date of the contract, which is inappropriate, which is July next year. All right, we know the price, we know the CM, because it's all professional services. We'll have to drive someplace occasionally, but no big deal. All right, so we'll save that. So this is the deliverable. We're going to confirm that, and because it's not going to change really. And from here then, we can copy that and create a task from that. So we press the button to copy the sales order line item to the deliverable. Now we're going to press the copy to task button to copy the deliverable to the task, which will assign it to the deliverable automatically, which is right here. But then you also need to choose which sales order line item you're going to link this to.
Stakeholder.
And because we're doing it this way, all the names should match. See, sales order, deliverable, and task all have the same name. Choose a work type. So this is mostly going to be, this is design related task. You can add a note later if you want. It's now due date.
Yeah, due date pending.
Yeah. Field lead, Keely. That's a one person task, but for how many days approximately? Now this is a task. So what I recommend is to just set this up as a 1-day task, so that you can more easily copy it later into another task, right? It's unlikely you'll have like 3 contiguous days of client interviews.
Right.
It'll most likely you'll have 1 or 2 or 3 on a day, and maybe 1 or 2 or 3 on another day. All right, so we'll just assign you to that, and task price is that. You can split tasks, which we'll go over later. When you split a task, we'll use this training video to show you to do that. We're going to say that it's going to take 3 days, okay, to do all the interviews. Now they won't happen all on 3 days, right? They will get broken up most likely across 3 separate days. But we're going to set the task up originally as for one person for 3 days, and I'll show you later how you split that into its 3 individual tasks, or we'll say 2 individual tasks. And it preserves all the details for you. I'll show you how to do that. But let's just complete this exercise, the quick setup. All right, so now we have tasks and deliverables against the project. So I'm going to expand the project. So now we have sales order line items, we have a deliverable, and we have a task that's linked to that deliverable and that sales order line item. All right, let's do support and check-ins. Assessment and design. Copy the deliverable, and we need a due date. It's worth 10,000. Contribution margin is 10,000. No tasks yet. Looks good. Save. Now we're going to immediately press the copy to task button. We're going to link it to the assessment and design sales order, right? Work type is also design. Due date, the schedule date. So the due date is like when it's due by. The schedule date governs where it shows up on the calendar. So let's put this on the calendar for, at least for now, for say 7/15/2026. Right? It's just when it's on the calendar. You're the field lead, and this will be a 1-person activity. Now this is, what's it worth? 10,000?
Yeah.
We're visiting, summarizing, producing, reviewing, and finalizing. It's more than 5 days, so that's 10 days worth of work. Okay? Approximately. Okay. Well, I guess I'll be on that too. Probably Jesse. No material costs, no plants, no trucks, no rentals, nothing. Nice and clean. We're going to save that. All right, 2 more. Support and check-ins. May 1st. That's a Saturday, so let's make it for April 30th. $8,000. Okay. And then we'll copy that to the task. Now, these tasks probably won't be scheduled, except for maybe the quarterly check-ins. So let's do this a little bit differently. If there's 4 quarterly check-ins, and what's this worth? 8,000. So from the get-go, I'm going to set up 4 different tasks.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah, for the 4 different channels.
Right. And we're going to make the value of each of those 2,000. Okay. And it'll be a 1-day task, and we'll just need some dates. It's worth 8,000. We're going to do 4 $2,000 tasks. Okay. So let's save that. Oops. Work type is, what does make it design to? Okay. meeting. So we'll say this is meeting or check-in number 4. Save. All right, so you can see here that there's a keyed in price of 8. We're only at 2. So we're going to do another one. Is there a way to copy? I think there is. If you go into a task, you can copy for the same day. So that preserves all the details. It just makes a copy of it, and we can just edit the date. See how it does a complete copy, says it's a copy. And we'll call this one number 3. How's that? Number 3. Check in number 3. We just need a date. March 30th. There's your 2000. Everything stayed the same. We just need to update the dates. We're going to click save. Let's copy it again. Copy same day. All right, need a date. Check in number 2, 11/30/2026. We did them. All right, one more. Check in number 1, September 30th. All right, so now your total task price for that deliverable is 8, and it matches your keyed in price. Now if we go back to the project, so the value of the contract is 25,000, but we have set up tasks worth only 20,000, and they're not green and they don't match. So we have 5,000 more to go, but we knew that. So let's go to our last sales order line item, which is worth 5. Final CAD, copy to deliverable, need a date, June 25th.
Sure.
Worth 5, looks great. Oops. And then copy to a task. Final CAD, work type is design, due date. You will probably do that the week they're due. So that's safe to say that that's a 1-person, 5-day task. So that should appear on the calendar if you look out that far. For that entire week. You'll be doing that. And if we go back to our project, ta-da,
Yay.
double green. So there, that's how you set up a project from start to finish. It's an easy one. Double check that these make sense.
Yeah.
So that looks like they go in order, right? Lot assessments, interviews, implementation support. Yeah, the 4 of them. But where's the design? Oh, there it is. So there's no way for that to be, that's not a great date, is it?
Probably not.
Let's change that. Schedule date. Give me a better date. All right, now that won't be a 10-day contiguous task, right? All right, so let's show everybody how you split that into 2. Use this fancy copy split or reset button. Okay, so here we have a task for 10 days. That's hard to schedule and hard to manage. We want to split that into 2 5-day tasks so that they fit cleanly on a calendar. So the process for doing so is turn on the copy split or reset set of actions. It expands that. The other thing that happens when you click that teal colored button is it reveals this slider where you can choose how many days you want to split off from the main task. So in this case we have a 10-day task and we want to split it into 2 5-day tasks. So I slid that to 5, and when you slide that over, then this fancy button appears called the task split action, and what it will do is it will carve off the first 5 days into one task and leave the remaining 5 days on this task. So if you read it here, it says split task, number of days off at the beginning. So if you have a 30-day task and you want to split off 5, it will split off the first 5 of those 30 days. Does that make sense? And leave the remaining 25 on the due date that is set up currently. If that didn't make sense as practice, and you'll get the hang of it. I'm going to press the button task split action. This will permanently split your task into 2 tasks. Make sure you want to do that because you can't put them back together. Boom, there we go. So now if we go back to that, we should see now 2 lot assessment and final design packages. And here is the one that got split. See that? It just has that little name split on it, so you can identify the one that got split off. And then you can adjust the dates accordingly. So because this is the split, let's just make this 2 weeks ahead of time. Or, yeah, ahead of time. But you can fiddle with those dates to your liking. So now we have, instead of one 10-day task, we now have 2 5-day tasks. So we manually created the 4 quarterly check-in tasks, but we only had 1 lot assessment, but we split that into 2. So that's 2 different ways you can take a big task and make them into smaller tasks that you can schedule over time. Cool. From here, then it's just basic project management. You mark things as complete. You move them around on the calendar. In summary, what we did was we created a new customer with contacts. Here's the contacts over here, 3 of them. We created a project worth $25,000. We replicated the contract language in the sales order line items. We used the fast copy buttons to create deliverables that correspond to each one. And then we created a set of tasks for each of the deliverables and sales order line items. We manually created 4 tasks that were contracted as 1 deliverable. And for the lot assessments, we set it up as 1 task and then used the copy split action to split it into 2 week-long tasks. And that is how you set up a new project. Remember that when the contract is signed, flip the confirm switch, change the order status to confirmed, and everything should be on cruise control. After that, thanks a lot for watching. Bye!